Hey, this is Al from Transformational Gaming. Appreciate you coming by. Appreciate you coming to the channel. Today I would like to talk to you about God of War and its release date reveal. But before I get into all that, I'd like to first thank you for all of the support that I've been getting. I mean, last time I looked, we was at 715. That means that was about 15 subscribers that had subscribed to the channel within 1 or 2 days. And I think that is absolutely awesome. And I just really appreciate you guys coming to the page and subscribing to the page and liking the content that is on the page. And I just appreciate you so much. And anything I can do to support you guys, I will definitely do that. And thanks again. So for those who are new to the channel, if you like the content that's on the channel, feel free to come back. No pressure here, man. But anyway, today I want to talk to you guys about God of War. So let's get into it. Sony brought out a new trailer today, but that wasn't the news. The biggest news was that they came out with a release date. And I kind of want to talk about the release date because, let's be honest, this trailer is basically a CGI trailer. And so since we definitely are a balanced channel, we're going to call it as it is. And we're not going to talk about these graphics in particular because we know that these are definitely CGI. So the date is 11/09/2022. And I'm surprised about that, although I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. I'm just a little bit surprised that Sony would try to squeeze that at the end of the year. Now I know they're trying to get those holiday months so that they can get a good push, and they may be thinking, well, that's a problem with our last couple of games. Even though they sold well, they didn't sell well out of the gate, so they're probably like, let's go ahead and try and see if we can get a bump with a release date near Christmas time. So I don't think that's a bad idea. I think it's actually a pretty good deal. I'm still kind of surprised because I know that there's going to be crunch associated with this date, and a lot of times that's going to cause some debugging issues, some bug issues, because you're saying, hey, we just bringing this out and we don't care what the state of it is. We're bringing this out. And so the good thing about this is that it's an exclusive, so you only got really 2 platforms to develop for. And you know, an ideal situation is that you have only one console to develop for. But you know, I understand these days, going back all the way back to the Genesis and Super Nintendo days, I mean, it's in vogue to release especially exclusive content on your new and your older console, especially when you're in transition period like we are now with the PlayStation 5. But, you know, at the same time, Sony usually prides itself on getting this stuff right. So we'll have to see, but I'm thinking they're going to probably release tons of updates. I can see people from Digital Foundry like John Linneman reviewing the game and saying, oh, they got a day 1 patch, so I didn't get that patch, so I got to re-review the game. They come back to the game 3 or 4 times. But to be totally honest with you, I was kind of in the mindset that somebody like Shu, I know Shu is not necessarily the president, but he's one of the CEOs, be it the indie studio or whatnot. He's still one of the CEOs that has a voice in the room. And I would think that he would say, hey, look, man, we need real update in graphics. Now, that's probably what they're doing, but to me, the graphics were an issue, and not necessarily for me, but I think for Sony, because Sony, they're looking for their first God of War like release to be on their new platform, and I know they wanted to try a lot of the ray tracing and stuff like that, and it's kind of a shame that they're not necessarily going to be successful with that because of development for the PS4. But at the same time, I do think that they're probably looking at an opportunity for a small bump in graphics, especially when it comes to the PS5 version. So that was something that I was thinking that they was going to concentrate on, because the last trailer we seen, I mean, one could say the animation was probably better. Some may say, hey, look, that was all of a setup camera, but that looked more in game than something like this. And don't get me wrong, God of War looks totally awesome. I'm pretty sure when they do a proper PS5 version of God of War, it's going to look a lot like this. But you can't help but to express some disappointment, because essentially, at least from the earlier trailers, we're essentially getting the same game. Now, I know that there's probably some animation tweaks and stuff like that they've added, especially with the addition of the PS5 memory, which in hindsight is really not that much. I'm not saying that 16 gigabytes isn't a lot, but I mean, in hindsight, it's really not that much compared to what's used right now in PCs. But either way, I really do think that God of War release date is a pretty good date. It gives you time to beat the game in November. People are going to be playing it to death, and I'm pretty sure that the storyline is probably what they've been focused on. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. They could surprise me and say, hey, you look at the game and like, wow, this game looks totally awesome. They done totally changed everything. But I doubt if that's what's going on. I'm thinking they're focused on mostly on the story, and they're ramping up to the final conclusion. But this is probably the end of the Norse mythology. They're looking like they really want to go in another direction as it applies to the mythology, the setting of the story and stuff like that. I think you always get the feeling that they're hiding something, right? Because they're not really showing any gameplay. Usually when you don't show any gameplay, it usually means that date that they gave is somewhat tentative. And I'm rolling with that. It's just really hard to believe that they're going to come out this year and they're not going to really show any real trailers or anything like that. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not a long time to November. It is. But if you think about it, I mean, you got August, September, and October. So that's basically 3 months away. So my expectation is that within the last month, which is October, I'm expecting to see some gameplay. But today, if you're going to come up with a release date, I expected to see some type of gameplay. Like, even in the first God of War, when they told us the release date and things like that, they had Kratos, which was a scene that they kept in the game. They had Kratos coming from the shadows, and the camera turned or whatnot, and then that was it. But this is a whole CGI, and it's like, that's nothing. At least we knew in the first one, oh, that's some in-game gameplay, but this one, this is all CGI. So it's kind of difficult to say, what, that 11/09, that's the date that I'm saying I'm confident that it's going to come out. I have no confidence in that date. Not showing any gameplay at this point in time. You got 3 months left. Like I said, if I'm going to apply the same thing to Xbox, I got to apply the same thing to Sony. And yes, not having any gameplay 3 months out does not bode well for that release date. So yeah, again, I'm surprised. I'm totally surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised that the release date is in November. But I'm wondering what corners did they have to cut in order to get it to that release date. Because I'm not saying they didn't have time. They've had time. But I think most of the time that they've used between the last game and this new release date, I think that they've really been working on the story. Because like I said, in some of the interviews that I've seen with Corey, he tried to say, hey, I'm not involved, but we all know he's involved in some type of way. And I'm thinking the way he was talking about the story, my thoughts is that his direction is in the form of a specific way that he wants to end the series. He probably gave a template to the new guy, and so my man's probably running with it. But with all that being said, there's a lot of stuff I could talk about, but let's just celebrate this release date as is. I hope that it comes out on that release date. I hope it's not delayed any further. If you like the content, comment, like, subscribe. This is Al from Transformational Gaming, and may the truth set you free. Later.